More Ebola scares break out as Ebola protests break out. Cleaning crews striking over the dangers of cleaning planes. Other workers warning they're not trained for beefed-up screening at major U.S. airports. The kick in today. All the more reason some here say, forget beefing up screening. We need to ban all flights from the Ebola-ridden region. Are they right? Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Butner. This is Bulls and Bears. Here we have the Bulls and Bears this week. Gary B. Smith, Tracy Burns, Jonas Max Ferris, John Layfield, along with Chuck Rocha. Welcome to everybody. John, forget the screenings, just stop those flights?
Yes. Look, President Obama was quick to stop flights to Israel not too long ago, but he's not stopping flights out of Liberia. I don't understand this. Polio was supposed to be $1 trillion disease. It's been pretty much eradicated through prevention, so we're not seeing that cost. The cost of Ebola, look, the CDC has been wrong about the avian flu, the swine flu, SARS, so many different things. But what if they are right? I mean, what if this is the worst thing since AIDS? Why not take the preventative measures of stopping these flights coming out of Liberia? At least the people, other African countries have already done that.
Well, I think Gary B. will tell you why not.
Well, there's a number of reasons. One is I just think it's inhumane not to treat the people there. And you can't treat the people there if you have a flight ban. Who's going to want to fly into the country as an aid worker and knowing they can't get out? I mean, two, people are going to get out regardless. The guy that was infected in Dallas actually flew from Monrovia to Brussels to Dulles and then to Dallas. So we're going to ban all flights coming into the U.S., period? I don't think that's going to work. You know, and even as far as the screening, by the way, Canada tried that back in 2003 with SARS. They spent $7 million on screening. They didn't catch one case. I think we need to treat the epidemic at its roots where it is in Africa.
But isn't this treating it at its roots?
Absolutely. Treat it at its roots, contain it. Look, you want to send people in to help, I get that. But limit it to them. There's no need to be vacationing in West Africa right now. You can find other places to go. They can fix this there. 150 people come over from West Africa every day. That is 150 times risk for us that we don't need to be taking right now, Brenda.
But you know, Jonas, there still is a risk. I mean, people lie. That happened in this case. They fly to other airports. They get into America. Is this an effective way of containing the epidemic?
Well, versus doing nothing, it's effective, but I'm more with Gary on this one. Look, we got all kinds of problems. The fact that you have to self-report on a piece of paper, well, I have anything to declare, and have I been near anybody with Ebola? That's just an absurd way to solve this problem. Now, in the flu pandemic of 1918, the Japanese had a low level of flu hits because they stop some transports in and out of their country. But we are a little more advanced than 1918, so we need something where we track people. We should be doing that anyway with terrorism. Maybe we could quarantine people for 21 days before they get on a plane to the U.S. so we could see if symptoms develop, because that's how long the incubation period is. So there's something we can do that's a little more advanced with knowledge than just an all-out ban, which, to Gary's point, is inhumane and won't work anyway.
Well, even going back to the 14th century, it worked. It didn't work for Venice. They stopped all ships coming in, but that is a bit long ago. But Chuck, bring us to the present. What do you think?
I think that there's a middle ground here, and I think that we should not have this disease in the country. Everybody agrees with that. But I think, back to Jonas's point, I think if you really want to come to America and we want to allow people to be here, I think that incubation period is the key. And I think that if you want to be here, schedule to be here, you'll go through a 21-day wait before you get here to make sure you don't develop symptoms. And after that 21 days of being monitored, you would come here. And that cost would be on that country, not on us.
So they'd be quarantined before they left to come here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, John, what do you think of that?
I think Liberia can't afford that. I think Sierra Leone can't afford that. I don't think any country in West Africa can afford that. And I don't think the United States wants to afford that. I don't think we can either. I think that's not realistic to assume that's going to happen. Look, we can track guys that are coming. You don't have direct flights from Liberia to New York, Liberia to Dallas, but you can track these guys from where they come. There's no reason to, this is not either or. There's no reason to let these people in our country. The incubation period is 2 to 21 days. This gentleman in Dallas that passed away, he would not have been caught in that screening, and these guys won't be caught in the future. Just don't allow any of them to come. That doesn't mean that aid workers that go there If they're American citizens, they should be allowed to return.
But
That's right.
then they still could have contracted Ebola, though, John.
Yeah, if they could look, if they're American citizens going down there, you're talking about a much smaller margin, a smaller group of people.
Right.
Those people you can quarantine.
And to Chuck's point,
you're not talking about millions of people there. You're talking about aid workers that will be coming back.
And Chuck's right about that. Then quarantine them for 21 days and bring them home. But you know, I'm not entirely sure why we need to have this open border just right now. We need to fix this and save the American people.
Okay, I'm going to let Gary B in here.
Well, what airports exactly are we talking about here? We're talking about all of West Africa, for crying out loud. And the other question I have is, let's just say there was an outbreak in the United States. Are we going to then, are the other countries going to say we're going to ban flights out of the U.S. just like we did supposedly for Africa? I just think this is the wrong way to go. People are going to find their way into the country. Just like that guy in Dallas said, people are going to then fly to other airports, and they're going to fly through Canada. They're going to come in here. Are we just going to close down the whole aviation system? It's just a stupid way to go. It's going to waste a lot of money. You're going to cause economic catastrophe. Treat it in Africa, for crying out loud. Don't try to shut down the airports. That's just silly.
We're trying to treat it in Africa. That's why we're trying to leave it in Africa, so we can treat it in one place. We're not trying to treat it in Dallas, which is what we're doing right now.
Wait, you mean, so you're saying let's just close down, I guess, all of West Africa, I suppose.
Do we have a lot of tourists train?
Don't you think that would cause a lot of unrest there?
From Liberia, Sierra Leone? How much are you actually talking about closing down? Yes, I'm talking about closing down an area that is infected with Ebola, yes.
Would you like, John, would you like to live in a place, let's just say you were in Dallas right now, and that was an infected area. Would you like to be in a place where they essentially put an iron dome over it and you couldn't get out of Dallas?
But Gary, the difference with Dallas is Dallas has the financial means to nip this in the bud instantaneously.
I'm just saying
These countries do not, though. So it is not at our peril because they can't financially do it.
We keep dancing around the poverty issue because Ebola is spread by poverty and ignorance more than airplanes at this point. So if we want to really get at the source, we're going to have to deal with the fact that people in this country think saying Ebola causes Ebola, and they do bizarre things with dead bodies. So we're going to have to put money in those countries if you want to treat it there versus just blocking off the borders with the airplanes. That is an old-fashioned way to solve a problem in a modern economy.
Chuck?
I think that listening to the discussion makes me think about what we went through with AIDS, and somebody brought that up, right? We need to get ahead of this before we do have a catastrophe. If we have to shut the airports, if we have to shut down the planes going into those countries, I understand Gary B's argument, but I also understand that we have to take care of our homeland first.
But Gary B, you brought up a good point about SARS. So much money was spent on it, and it didn't really stop the outbreak.
Exactly. Like I said, Canada tried that. They thought, okay, we'll screen people at the airport. They spent a bunch of money. They didn't catch one case. People are going to come in. So then what you've done is you put a country in poverty, and you're saying, hey, go overthrow yourselves because financial disaster. I mean, you shut down basically a country from people getting out or at least coming over here. I think that creates a heck of a lot of disruption that we don't want to take on ourselves.
How many Liberians are going to get in this country if we shut down the airport? Are they going to come over in a canoe? Come on.
Well, you know, John, it's not a question of how many. It's a question of what is the humane thing to do. No, I don't. I believe in protecting us. I think there's other ways, though, than shutting down the airport. First of all, I don't think that's going to work.
At the airport for 21 days, and they weren't allowed to go to the Ebola areas before they got on a plane. They wouldn't have Ebola when they got on the plane by the nature of how it goes in your body. So we could have a hybrid where you can fly here, but you have to go through extra steps from certain countries to make sure you don't have it versus filling out paperwork that you don't have it, which doesn't mean anything.
Okay, Tracy, last.
I just think that we have to protect our borders. Gary, we have had this conversation on the show before. Why are we constantly the police officers of the world? We have to protect our own, and I personally think shutting those airlines down is the way to do it.
Okay, that's got to be the last word. From the Ebola threat at our airports to the Ebola threat at our border, one of our top military leaders warning how it could send a huge wave of illegals into America. The Cavuto gang is on it, but up here first. ISIS sending terror tweets. Now, Twitter getting death threats for shutting them down. So how can we protect U.S. workers?